Inside of Provar Automation and its test settings in the connections tab, we can establish all of our various connections to the different systems that we're wanting to test and involve in our testing scenario. The first thing that we'll do is set up an admin connection. This admin connection gives us the capability to log in, of course, as a system administrator inside the org, which will allow us to log in as additional users inside of the Salesforce org to emulate persona-based testing. Now we can even vary this by environment if we have different sandboxes that we're wanting to test inside of Provar. Once we've established our admin connection, we'll create an additional connection here to log in as the admin to log in as a different profile. So here we have our service agent profile that we're going to be logging in as. Now we've established those two connections to test Salesforce. We also have a Gmail connection that we've set up here. And if we just go ahead and test this connection, we should see that the connection test was successful. Basically, it'll just send a test email from Provar to make sure that this connection can be utilized. So this email is what we're going to be using to send an email to our Salesforce org case queue. And that queue is going to be rerouted to a specific user in Omnichannel where they're going to be picking up that case and basically going through and servicing that user. So an end-to-end scenario is really going to start from an email to case validation here. Now, once we've created all of our connections and we're happy to begin testing, we'll go ahead and launch Test Builder, and we'll go over a couple of things that Provar covers inside of Service Cloud out of the box as we're going through here. Basically, what this is going to do is log in to the Omnichannel as our service agent to await for a case to come into the queue. So this Salesforce connection step here is utilizing our service agent profile, and it's going to log into the service console application inside of our org. Now, one thing out of the box that Provar takes care of is you'll notice we had some previously open tabs here. Our connection step actually allows us to close any of those tabs that have been open from a previous session automatically. So it's actually just a Provar setting. So if we go back into our automation here, if we go to this connection step, we can see close all console tabs has been checked, which is checked by default. So basically every time we open up a test, it's going to make sure that we have a clean slate for testing purposes. So that's just one of the things that we do for consoles inside of Salesforce. Okay, so we've logged into the Omnichannel. We can see we're available here and we're waiting for a case to come in. So the next part is going to be utilizing that Gmail connection in a single step here to send an email, and then we'll see the case appear here. So inside of Provar, basically it's a single step that we've added from our test palette, send message, and all we need to specify is the source connection, the contents, which we've parameterized as a variable, the subject, which is also a variable, and then the actual email here, which is our service email to our Salesforce org to make sure this gets into the correct queue. So we'll go ahead and switch back over to our scenario here, and we'll just step this through, and we'll see it'll send an email. It'll happen very quickly, and then we should see very shortly that new case has just arrived, and it's basically just rerouted that into our queue here. So now we can accept that case through Omnichannel since we have it open. So we've mapped a couple of steps here to basically just to click that accept button. So we'll just go ahead and continue that through. And of course, once you accept the case, it'll automatically open the case in a new tab here. Now, tabs and subtabs and windows and things like that are, of course, behaving a little bit differently in Service Cloud. So Provar has a couple of things out of the box that allow us to handle those natively. Now, if we go ahead and just map anything here, inside of Test Builder, we see it says this is a Salesforce Lightning Console application. So it's detected that automatically inside of Provar. And there's a couple of different ways that we can recognize what kind of tab you want this to be in from a testing standpoint. So there's a lot of flexibility when it comes to testing consoles if you want to truly emulate whatever the user would be doing. But the navigation itself is handled for you automatically. So you don't need to map any of the navigation steps, just the actions on those elements on the page itself. So we see, of course, here, this is a metadata recognized field, which essentially just means that we don't need to provide any kind of locator for that element. Provar is utilizing the metadata for the org to recognize where that element is on the page. And what this gives us the capability to do is not have to worry about maintaining this particular test step. Because it's using metadata, it's always going to use a valid locator at runtime dynamically. From here, basically, we're just going to be verifying the case details. So we have a couple of steps here to map those out. everything that we would be doing from a user standpoint has been mapped out, including closing that little tab there. We're setting the contact record here to the appropriate user, and this has been pulled in from the email actually. Now we're activating the inline edit. So you notice here the details tab wasn't loaded and it automatically switched over to the details tab. Again, this is part of Provar's innate ability to handle navigation inside of Salesforce. This isn't exclusive to Service Cloud, but we see that navigation happen automatically. We didn't need to add that as an additional step. Now it's going to just go ahead and update a couple of these fields here. It'll update the status and then save this case. Then it's going to validate the subject, the description as well. And then lastly, the case priority. We're going to make sure that the default is being set to medium as expected. Now, once the details have been verified, the next step is just going to be emailing a response to the end user from inside of Salesforce. So of course we could do this a couple of different ways. In this case, we just did an email directly inside of the publisher action. So again, metadata supported bits here. So if we just go ahead and resume this through, we'll see it change over to the feed tab and the email tab. So not only are the topmost tabs navigation is handled for us, but also any kind of sub tabs. So that navigation is handled out of the box inside of Provar, and we've sent that email already. And now we're just making sure that the activity history is loaded properly. So we're just going to verify that that activity is there. And then lastly, we're just going to close the case. So we send a response to the end user saying that we're going to reset their password. And now we just need to update the case to closed status and update the reason for that as well. So we can go ahead and resume this through where we'll see that happen. This is the closed case action here, and we'll see the type pick list get updated, the case reason pick list, the internal comments, and then the case will be marked as closed once all of the information has been populated. I'm just going to pause this here. If we wanted to map anything here, we see that the type pick list is set to problem. If we wanted to change this, for example, we can actually just right click on that step and go to step 2, and we can edit this test step, and we can change this to maybe question instead, right? And if we save and do, it'll re-execute that step, and so we'll see that update there. And just to verify that it's working properly, we can change it in the UI directly and then step forward inside of Test Builder. So just kind of showing you the interactive capabilities of Test Builder and how we can update the test steps at runtime. So we can update our case reason as well. So we'll just go ahead and set it to existing problem, save and do, and that'll be updated. And it's re-executing it to verify that it's going to be working properly. So we can change this, step backwards and step forwards again, and we'll see that update. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and resume this through. It'll clear that text, enter it in again, and then lastly, click the save button here, which will close the case. But what I also want to show is our capability to handle flows inside of Service Cloud. We're logged in as our service agent. We've just closed our case, but I do want to show how we could handle these quick actions inside of Salesforce. So normally when we're interfacing with these particular actions, a lot of times they're custom flows or they're screen flows that have been embedded in the page, and basically it'll activate whenever you interact with them. So if we want to verify the caller, for example, of this particular case, in this case, we've already mapped this. So we can see it's looking for that row locator there, basically verify caller, and click add and do. So we'll see that open up the screen flow here. And now if we go ahead and start mapping our steps, we'll see here that Provar looks a little bit different. And that's because Provar has a custom framework to handle screen flows inside of Salesforce. So this is an area where a lot of tools tend to struggle with, is that when you have a lot of custom flows, particularly screen flows inside of Salesforce that you've activated on your pages, and automating those can be tricky because they involve Lightning Web Components and they involve these embedded frameworks, which are these screen flows. So we actually have a custom way of handling those. So I'll just go ahead and put in the user's name here, and we'll see that these mappings will work out of the box. No need to update anything here. I'll go ahead and put in a callback number. I'll just leave out any kind of punctuation and set that, and then we'll go ahead and finish ignoring the formatting of that phone number there. There we go. So we've mapped our little quick action with the screen flow everything is supported, again, out of the box inside of Provar. So we could show another quick action here. So let's just go ahead and interact with this change delivery address. And none of these we've mapped before. So if we go ahead and interact with this deliver to label here, we can see what it looks like for the first time. So occasionally we may have to provide the actual title of a field, but because this is using Provar's adaptive locator, this is our version of self-healing inside of LWCs and screen flows. So we just need to provide a value here, which this is just looking for a name. So we'll just put that in here. And we'll populate our street address. And you can see kind of how this would work, right? So it's fairly easy. I'm not having to specify any kind of locators or anything like that. Again, this is all out of the box. I haven't customized anything. I've never mapped these steps before inside of this particular org. All right, so we'll just put the state here, and California. And lastly, we'll map our zip code. There we go. And this is the same finish button as before, so we'll just click add and do again here. And there we go. There's another quick action with a screen flow mapped in just a matter of seconds. So it's very easy to kind of map these through. And if we go ahead and do our last one here, just to illustrate this point, that this will work for all of these. There we go. We verified everything. We've completed our actions. Our case is closed. And that completes our scenario. So that shows you a full end-to-end scenario inside of Service Cloud, emailing to support, accepting the case through the Omnichannel, verifying the case details, emailing a response, and then closing the case, as well as completing some actions and screen flows there.